texting from. So please note that when you send in the message, be it WhatsApp, on Facebook, on Instagram, and just let us know where it is that you're listening from and where you're messaging from so that we can know how far we get when we speak to you. So thank you very much. Please keep the messages coming in and let's continue the conversation. You can call the phone line 07000 917 917. That's the number to call. 07000 917 917. Don't forget to send in a text message or a WhatsApp message to 0703 175 6537 if you cannot make a phone call. 0703 175 6537. The first message on WhatsApp is coming in from YO from Ikeja. YO says, I can imagine what you go through. It really can be demeaning to go through such emotional torture each time. Some men may love a lady, but become impatient with a little flaw, despite their love for the lady. If he truly loves you, he should be patient and willing to make heavy investments of time and resources to match you up to his level. This will not be overnight, as he must know. Despite being a fashion designer, you also need to make time for mental investment on your brain development. You can start by using YouTube and online learning tools. Also learn to watch educative programs on media. Classroom learning may be another option. In the process, please let him know you need time to catch up and he needs to give you time. And that's from YO from Ikenja. Thank you very much. Please keep your messages coming in. The number to send your messages to 0703 175 6537. To call 07000 917 917 is the number to call. 07000 917 917. Now tonight, this story coming in from Kachi tonight is, as always, filled with layers. Adult conversation stories, you already know, are stories that are filled with layers. And because they're real life stories, it sheds a different light on the fact that this is something that people are actually going through in today's society. And this is why whenever we give advice, we like to give advice not only to the people whose stories are profiling, but also to other people who are listening and that can take one or two things away from the conversation and from the advice being given. Now, this is the crux of the matter. Kachi, 24, a tailor. Fiance, 32, a doctor. Being a tailor and being a doctor in today's society are two different things. And this applies to the nature of the job. And this also applies to the kind of clientele you get. This also applies to the kind of exposure that you get. And this also applies to the kind of money that you make. So there are always the different factors that contribute to the nature and benefits that come along with being a tailor and being a doctor. Now, the age difference between Kachi and her fiance is 8 years. Kachi is 24, he is 32. So technically, that age difference is not too much of a challenge, actually. Some people would like to think that that particular age difference is actually awesome. It's just right for these people. Yes, it could be wrong for some others, but this age difference in today's African society is just right. In fact, it's like apt. Now, the challenge here is the gap in their level of education. That's the main challenge here, the gap in their level of education. Kachi is not just a tailor, she actually just finished secondary school. She just finished secondary school. And as we all know, to be a doctor, not only will you finish secondary school, you will go through university, you will graduate. And I don't know the kind of doctor that he is, but if he's not a general practitioner, that means he has gone further to specialize and become a particular kind of doctor. So that means he has spent extra years gaining experience and specializing on one particular thing that he has chosen to do, still in the area of medicine. So He's extremely well educated, and even if um his level of education for some might be, oh, that's normal for anybody who wants to be a doctor. In this case, the difference between this level of exposure and this level of education, as compared to Kachi's level of exposure and level of education, is vast. The gap is vast. The difference is vast. And now Kachi says, he looks down on me because of my education. Now that's fact number one. He looks down on her because of her education. Now this can mean that he doesn't this can mean that he's not proud of the fact that she only graduated from secondary school. You know, this can mean that he's not proud of that fact. But Kachi adds in her story that he always insults my reasoning on matters. He always insults my reasoning on matters. What this simply means, to a large extent, is that he insults her reasoning on matters. He insults her mindset on a lot of subjects. And what this means is, for somebody who always says, why would you say that? That is so silly. Why would you even think that? That person, to a large extent, will not value any opinion that comes from you, will not value any advice that comes from you. Now, as we all know, relationships are not one-sided. There will always be times when you have to consult the other person to talk about certain things. There'll always be times where you need to get advice from the other person. The other person needs to prop you up, motivate you, make you feel a little bit better, brighten up your day. And all these things matter. And if you don't value the person enough to value their opinion, if you don't rate them in Nigerian English, if you don't rate them highly enough for them to be that motivation when you need it, for them to be that sounding board when you need it, for them to be that that person who gives you good advice that you can actually take and can actually work for you, good practical advice. If your spouse or your significant other is not this person to you, then to a large extent, there's a vacuum in that relationship. And according to Kachi, he insults her reasoning on matters, which to a large extent means that he doesn't or would not take her advice on anything. And if he doesn't take advice or on anything, that simply means that he makes most of the decisions in the union and does not involve Kachi. And this, bear in mind that Kachi is still engaged to him. They are not married yet. So it would be nice to know how long they've been dating for, how long they've been in a relationship for. Kachi, if you're listening, please tell us how long you've been dating your fiance, how long this relationship has lasted for. Tell us and let us know if he's been doing this since day one or if this is a recent development. If he's been doing this from day one, then it won't be a surprise. It won't be surprising to see that he's still doing this. But if he's not been doing this from day one, and all of a sudden he just started doing this, then obviously this is a cause for worry. Hello, good evening. Please call back if you can. The number to call is 07000 917 917. You can also send in a text or WhatsApp message to 0703 175 6537. This is still Adults Conversations on Your Women Radio, WFM 91.7.
They keep wondering, say I'm unstoppable. How I'm unstoppable. Some try to slow me down, but I'm undraggable. Yes, I'm undraggable. Every expectation, I don't meet. That's the key. Is it? My success, every tweet. I'm on the web, just keep bouncing. Wi-Fi network, keep something. Reflect your network, Wi-Fi network. Just keep browsing. Respect your network, Wi-Fi network. Just keep something. Respect your network, Wi-Fi network. unlimited browsing. This one in my door. This one in my door. I want the food that I'm trying to be on the network. We don't want to no more Wahali. No more
Get and stay connected to the Wi-Fi network for unlimited internet experience that keeps you one step ahead in all your browsing needs. Tetranet, the Wi-Fi network.
The name says it all. Women Radio 91.7.
What are the consequences of corruption on the woman? Silence. Silence through diverse forms. Education, healthcare, laws and policies fostering unfavorable conditions to the woman at all levels. The Woman Agenda, breaking that silence, demanding accountability, transparency and good governance of women. The Woman Agenda, Fridays 2 p.m. on Women Radio 91.7, a platform on the way forward.
I feel that there's some sort of lack of professionalism in this because we're talking about 100 lives.
Government has also put in place a structure to make it look like what they have in mind.
How do we stop crime in the society? Because at the end of the day, if a man cannot provide for his wife anymore, he looks for other means. We should address Nigerian
Mondays through Fridays from 9:15 a.m.
On WFM 91.7 will bring you ladies from across Nigeria's political zones, dissecting, discussing, and disagreeing on topical issues of the day. You too can join the conversation by tweeting us at WFM 917 with the hashtag Panorama. WFM 91.7, the voice of women.
Sunana Maryam Ahmad Rufa'i kuma zan rika gabatar muku da shirin Muryar Mata. Shirin Muryar Mata zai rika zo muku ne daga gidan rediyon mata wato Women Radio domin ta 91.7 a duk ranar Laraba misalin karfe 2 na rana da kuma Liberty Radio mita 103.3 duk ranar Litinin da karfe 9 na dare. Ku kasance da ni Maryam Ahmad Rufa'i domin tattaunawa akan lamuran da na shafi mata da bangarorin tattalin karfafa arzikin dogarar da kai, sa hannu a siyasa, harkar tsaro da ci gaba da duk lamuran da na shafi mata da yara mata a arewacin Najeriya. Shirin Muryar Mata zai ci gaba da zo muku ne daga gidan rediyo mata wato Women Radio a mita 91.7 karfe 2 na rana duk ranar Laraba, kuma a Liberty Radio mita 103.3 ranar Litinin karfe 9 na dare. Za ku ji maimaicin shiri ɗin ranakun Lahadi karfe 9:55 na safe. Muryar Mata, muryarki, ƙarfinki.
The big question.
Corruption is, in fact, is pretty much. We never had a snake and whether Saturn and Solomon.
Wow.
Everything has increased.
Conversational, controversial, and borderline disruptive. The big question.
Mondays through Fridays at 12:15 p.m. on your Women Radio WFM 91.7. 25 minutes to 10 on your Women Radio WFM 91.7. This is still Adult Conversations in your Women Radio 91.7. Here we share real life issues and we discuss matters relating to the heart. If you're just joining tonight, we're discussing Kachi's story. Kachi is 24 and she's a tailor. Her fiance is 32 and he's a doctor. Kachi just finished secondary school and it's obvious that her fiance is well educated. Now, Kachi says her fiance is always looking down on her because of her level of education. He always insults her reasoning and it gets to her. According to Kachi, he cares for her and provides for her, but this issue bothers her. But it's just this issue that bothers her. And so she's asking, please give me advice. What do I do? So to give Kachi advice, please call in to the number 07000 917 917 07000 917 917. You can do well to send in a text or WhatsApp message to 0703 175 6537 0703 175 6537. Anywhere you are in the world, you can also listen, and you can listen from the website www.wfm917. Now, rather, when you call, please turn down the volume of your radio. And also keep it short, keep it simple, and keep it constructive. Thank you. Hello, good evening. Good
My name
evening.
is Joy Paul.
Hello, Joy
I'm
Paul.
speaking from Joy Paul. Joy Paul. I'm
Okay.
speaking from Akuti.
Okay.
The advice I will give to the girl is this: that man is not her lover, and he didn't love her in any way. He will use her and dump her. So the best thing for the girl is to further her education and forget about the man. The educational gap is even too much. So the man will not, in short, the man will not marry her. And the highest mistake he will make is to go to a man that does not love her. So that's my contribution.
Okay. Joy Paul, are you calling for the first time?
Yeah?
Are you calling for the first time?
Yes, I'm a first time caller.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much for contributing tonight. I appreciate you calling. Okay, and that's our first caller for the night, Joy Paul, and she's saying that he doesn't love her. He actually doesn't love her, because if he did, he would not treat her in that manner. He would not insult her reasoning on matters, and he would not look down on her because of her level of education. She's saying that she should find a way to just further her education so that she won't be stuck in that one place for long. And she's saying that the man actually doesn't love her, he doesn't value her, and so she should just do the best thing that she can and quit the relationship. So thank you very much for calling. Are you in agreement with this school of thought, or you have a contrary opinion? Hello, good evening.
Good evening. This is Dick Ben.
Dick Ben, thank you very much for calling. How are you doing today?
Very well. Are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for calling.
All right. Yes, the story of Kachi can go either way. Sometimes when we are involved in a relationship with the kid, I think there are things we have to look out for. Yes. For example, when a guy meets a lady for the very first time, what are those things that the guy is looking out for? And when a woman meets a guy she thinks you love, what are those things to look out for? So I don't think the setup for this question is the ultimate thing. It is important especially because it determines how much you earn. It determines also the kind of security you have for the future regarding the marriage. Those things are important. Nobody's arguing about that. But I think that when we look at the life of people like Zuckerberg, the date, for example, what was the attractive thing that made them marry the kind of women they married? Was it the educational qualification? I don't think so. So let's relate it to reverse it when it has to do with a woman this time around. If a guy is a woman, the fact that you are more intelligent, more educated, it's an added advantage. But I think the first thing the guy should look, if I engage a woman in a conversation, what should attract me to that woman is the level of her intelligence. You're not only intelligent when you went to school. It doesn't even make you. There are people who went to school, but when you talk about native intelligence, when you talk about reasoning, they are not just there. So when again you talk about people relate to, couples or friends trying to relate to seek each other's opinion. When I engage in a conversation, the kind of words that come out from her mouth will tell me the kind of woman she is. Whether she has that ability or DNA or whatever you want to attach to it, that should be material. So I think what Kachi should focus on now, if the guy goes with this trend of looking down on you, not respecting your opinion, I don't think you have much time to work on that relationship. I don't know the other thing she added, whether the guy truly loves her.
Well, the only thing she added,
how do you define love?
let me answer that.
When you are, He takes it the way you are because he has seen you. He has seen your background. And that's why he came to you in the first instance. Now, the fact that if he doesn't respect you, he will even take it to the public space. When you people are discussing and people are there, he looks at you and will not make input. Your opinion is not respected. He leaves the woman rejected. He leaves the woman, what am I bringing to the table? I am worthless. So this young girl looking at it, I think that he should begin to have a rethink about this. Like somebody suggested something which I think is valid, that she should look for a way to improve herself. It is not compulsory to a medical doctor. Look for somebody who will complement your wisdom, who will complement your effort, who will complement you in every facet of life. Okay? If both of you are not compatible, if both of you are not on the same wavelength, forget about it. Look for somebody who complements you and move on. That's what marriage is all about.
Thank you very much, Dickie.
Good night and God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for contributing. Okay, and that's Dickie Ben, and he's saying that the most important thing here is the fact that Kachi feels appreciated, and she doesn't feel this way because her fiance doesn't respect her, particularly her opinions or her reasoning, so she said, because she's not as educated as he is. Now, the Kimben is basically saying, if he doesn't respect your opinion, he insults your reasoning on matters, then that means he will do it in private, he'll possibly do it in public as well. So, yes, you can further your education, you can improve yourself, but it's also important that in that relationship, you understand that chances are that you will not be respected. Your value will not be appreciated because you're constantly being looked down on. So he says the best and most important thing might be for you to leave that relationship. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for calling. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm Ziggy by name. I'm in Festac now.
Ziggy, you always say you're in Festac now. I already know you're Ziggy from Festac. Why are you now adding I'm in Festac now?
Yeah, I have another residence in Ajawa State, but as at this moment,
you're in Festac.
I'm in Festac.
Oh, I understand.
Yes.
Now. All right, thank you very much for calling. Please go ahead.
All right, my take on this subject matter is this. On the guy's side, it takes a fool to think that him alone is wise. Okay, there are so many people when they have certificates, they will think that them alone is the wisest people on earth. And it's not like that. No brain is idle. No brain of any human being is idle. So this Kachi's story, believe you me, if I should advise my sister Kachi, I would tell her to watch her back and also watch her front. Why I'm asking her to watch her back is this. He doesn't respect you now. What makes you think he will respect you tomorrow if this will end up in marriage? So, but in all her story, I like one thing she said. And she said that they are just in a relationship. They have not reached a marriage. So if I should advise her, it is better to have a broken relationship than a broken marriage. Let her just move on. Because obviously that guy will not respect her tomorrow. In as much as he will not respect her opinion at this moment, let her just move on. Look for somebody that will just appreciate her and listen to her advice, take her opinion without her certificate. Because this guy cherishes his certificate so much, and any other person that does not have certificate is not a human, and that is very wrong. There are so many intelligent people out there who do not have certificate, but they are doing big things. Okay, she has a very good work, fashion designer in Nigeria. They are making a lot of money. Let her just concentrate on her job. Someone that will value her, that will listen to her, that will pamper her, that will love her for who she is, the person will show up. So let her just move on.
Thank you, Ziggy.
You understand? Because that guy, I'm not seeing any happiness in the arms, in her, being in the arms of that guy. I'm not seeing happiness for her. I'm not pursuing it.
Of course.
I'm not pursuing it at all.
Thank
so
you
let
so
her
much.
just move on. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for calling. Okay, so Ziggy is basically saying that if he doesn't respect your opinions now, if he doesn't respect you now, if he doesn't appreciate you, your mind and how your mind works, if he doesn't take your advice now, what are the chances that any of that would change after marriage? He's saying, just like Dick and Ben said as well, there are lots of people out there who are extremely intelligent, but are just not as educated. And this in no way undermines their intelligence. This just even further proves that they're intelligent because they do not have that level of education that usually is commensurate with that typical amount of intelligence. So that even proves that they are even more intelligent than the average person who went to school, and was exposed and now has that level of intelligence. So he's saying that if he doesn't recognize that in you, if he doesn't value you as a person, he doesn't recognize that you're intelligent and you're capable without being so obsessed about your certificate or your level of education, then that will not change when you get married. So he's saying a broken relationship is better than a broken marriage. It's better for you to leave now that it's a relationship rather than when it's a marriage. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for calling. What's your name and where are you calling from? Christopher from Ogba. Thank you for calling.
Yes. My advice to the lady, since they are not yet married, you should focus on her education, other her education. So that guy just want to make her up, and at the end of the day, we don't pass. So I would advise her to forget about that relationship and focus on her education. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so Christopher goes straight to the point and he says, just forget about the relationship and focus on your education. Focus on furthering your education or going higher in your education. She's a tailor at this point, recently graduating from secondary school. And Christopher is saying, just leave the whole relationship matter and just face your education and go further in it. Now, I want to ask a quick question. To a large extent, it's debatable whether one should go to tertiary institutions or not. It's completely debatable. There's no rule that says you have to be a graduate from a tertiary institution. There's no rule that says so. There's no rule that says if you don't graduate from a tertiary institution, you won't make it in life. You won't make money. You won't have jobs. You won't be financially free. You won't be intelligent. There's no rule that says all these things. Nigeria just happens to be a highly certificated country. So if you are not at least a graduate from a tertiary institution, people don't really rate you as anybody who, as someone who is anything. In Nigeria, that is like the basic level of achievement that you should have to be rated on any level, at least to be recognized in any conversation. So if you do not attain tertiary education in Nigeria to a large extent, people don't even pay attention to you. But now here's the flip side. If you do not go through tertiary education, but you are sound and you are rooted and you are established and you are strong and proficient at the thing that you do, whatever it is that you do, fashion design, carpentry, whatever it is that you do, there are 1,000,001 jobs that you can do that do not require you having to go to a tertiary institution. If you're sound, you're proficient, you are knowledgeable at that thing that you do, is it important whether or not you went to a tertiary institution? Is it important? Does that even matter? Why does that have to even come up in conversation? Why does that have to even be any what's the word now? Why does there have to be any parameter for which anyone would rate you, anyone would regard you as somebody who is established to at least to a point or educated to a point? Why does that have to be the case? So A regular thinking, rational thinking person would understand that tertiary institutions are not a must. They are not a must. If you have skill, if you are skilled, if you're proficient, if you're capable, you're knowledgeable, and you're willing to learn more and be exposed to more in that field that you're in, why do you have to go to a tertiary institution? I mean, one would think that the whole point of going to university or going to college is so that you can make money at the end of the day, move that education, translate it into making money at some point. Now, if you start making money and you're doing very well, regardless of the fact that you did not acquire a tertiary education, then why should anyone look down on you for that? Now, the reason I'm saying this is because some people are saying you need to further your education. What if that's not what she wants? What if that's not what she wants? Now, furthering her education would be great for her if that's what she wants. But if that's not what she wants, if she completely desires to be a fashion designer, that's her life's work, that's her ambition. She just wants to be great at it. She wants to have a whole empire based off of fashion design. Then will it be needed for her to acquire any tertiary education? Is it important for her to have a degree? Why is that? Will it be important for her to even have a degree because of that? I mean, now if you say further her education for the purpose of this, of the fact that her fiance is looking down on her, then that would probably mean acquiring a degree, and as a doctor, he would be training over and over again over time, because you need to hone your skills, you need to acquire years of experience, and you possibly need to go for more trainings, more classes, school, and all of that. So, number one, he's older. Number two, he will continually need to brush up on his education. So, regardless of how much she goes higher in furthering her own education, he will still always be more educated than her. He will still always be more educated than her. So chances are that because he will steadily be more educated than her, he would most likely still continue to look down on her. So if she's 24 and she's a fashion designer and she's making money, she might not be making great money because she possibly just started out. For somebody who just graduated secondary school, it will not be easy juggling a business as well as school. But now that she's out of secondary school, if she desires to go into tertiary institution, then fantastic. If she doesn't desire to do that, she can now focus full time on her business. Grow herself there, get more clients, make her business bigger, grow, and all of that. And then there are other people that can do stuff for you. If you need to draft a business plan and you can't do it yourself, there are people, as long as you know people who can get these things done for you, you don't necessarily have to, acquire a tertiary education to be successful. So why is it important that she has to do that? Or is it important that she has to do that? Let me put it that way. Is it important for her to acquire a tertiary education in this context? Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for calling. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm Blessing, calling from Ikorodu.
Blessing from Ikorodu. How are you doing today?
Fine, and you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much. Blessing, are you calling for the first time?
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you. Please go ahead. What is your advice to Kachi?
My advice to her is that communication is key in a relationship. If she does not like the way the guy is talking to her and looking down at her, she should speak to the guy. And this is why you are talking to me this way. I don't like this. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to improve on? What am I going to do from my own opinion to be counted when I give opinions? I want to know what I'm trying to say. So I think that she should just communicate with the guy. And if the guy wants her to go to school, and probably she should just further, or she must be, we are just saying that she should leave the relationship, she should end the relationship. What if she's not willing to end the relationship? really loves the guy. They can work things out, I guess. And if she wants to continue in her fashion designing way, to improve more on it, it will be good at what she does. That's all the least I have to say.
Thank you very much, Blessing. Thank you for calling.
Thank you.
Okay. So Blessing is saying that she doesn't necessarily need to walk out of the relationship. That what she needs to do, in Blessing's opinion, is to sit the guy down and talk to him about it. You know, why is it that you talk to me this way? Seek his opinion on what to do that will make her, that will make him stop treating her that way. That will make him stop looking down on her because of her level of education. Talk to him about it. Ask for advice, and put that advice to good use. And if he says she needs to acquire more education, and then she can go ahead and do that. If he says she needs to be more proficient at her skill, which is fashion design at the moment, then she by all means can do that as well. But Blessing is saying, don't just give up on the relationship because people are saying you should, and people are saying this is the case. So, um, Blessing says communication is important, so she should talk to him, express her grievances, the fact that she doesn't appreciate being spoken to in this way or being looked down on because of her education, and she doesn't appreciate being not regarded when it comes to her reasoning and her opinion on certain things. And that's what Blessing is basically saying. That what if she doesn't want to walk out of the relationship? I mean, some people are saying, leave the relationship, but what if she doesn't want to leave? Which is a valid question. But as always in adult conversations, we only give advice. We cannot tell you what to do. We can only give advice based on our upbringing, based on our beliefs, based on our level of exposure, based on our level of understanding, based on our level of interpretation, based on our level of just putting things together and giving that advice that we think that you need at that point in time. So under no circumstances are we expecting that you take every bit of advice that comes from here. But at the same time, we expect that as we give advice, you'll be able to take an informed decision at the end of the day. That's the goal of adult conversations. So, yeah, that's basically what Blessing is saying. You don't have to walk away. You can work it out. You can talk to him and you can get advice from him. You can let him know that you don't like the way you're being treated and the way he looks down on you, the way he insults your reasoning, and then you can work it out from there. That's what she's saying. So, yes, thank you very much, Blessing. Thank you for calling. Contrary to what people might think, walking out of a relationship is not always the best answer. That's not always the solution. You know, issues will develop from time to time. Issues will develop a lot in the course of an entire relationship. The commitment to stay together is what most of the time seals the relationship. That's what keeps it long. That's what sustains longevity in any relationship. The commitment to stay together despite whatever the challenges are and whatever challenges arise in the course of the relationship. But there's only so much that somebody can take in the course of the relationship despite being committed to it. And if this messes with Kachi's mind, if this really hurts her to the point where it gets to a point where this is the only thing she's seeing because it has happened so much, is it still worth staying in that relationship? Hello, good evening.
Good evening. My name is Victor.
Hello, Victor. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Ikorodu.
Thank you so much. Are you calling for the first time?
Yes, I'm calling for the first time.
Thank you.
I want to make my own opinion on the matter under discussion.
Okay.
Yes, I would want the lady in question to understand that there is a big social class difference between her and the man in question. And that gap, the man is not ready to close that gap. Because if he's ready to close that gap, he wouldn't have been using his social standing to bully the girl psychologically. So, and for the girl, the relationship is built on fantasy than reality.
Why do you say
Because
that?
if it's on reality, she should have understood this social difference and put it into consideration. Since the man is not willing to close that gap. So what it means is that she does not actually belong to that place.
Okay, first let me stop you. Let me quickly stop you and interject, yeah? Victor, there is no indication in this story so far that the man is not willing to close that gap. There's no indication in this story that, oh, he's not willing to take her through school and close the gap and help her further her education. There is no indication whatsoever in the story that he's not willing to make that happen. And that's point one. Point number two, yes, there's a difference in their social standings in society, but should that necessarily affect whether or not she is in a relationship with this person? Can't people look past that relationship, that social standing, and still sustain a relationship?
Yes, love should have closed that social standing if the man is very obliging. Yes.
Okay.
Because people have been settling for partners who have unequal social standing. Yes, and most times people don't notice that there's a difference. There's a social class difference because of love. You understand? So, but love is not playing that role here. You understand? Okay. Because everything has gone to the extent of the public knowing that there's something is happening between them. Then it means that the man really wants to just use his social position to bully the girl. You understand? So that's why I look at it. Because if the girl continues to be in that relationship, her mental health will be affected. You understand? And the purpose of being in a relationship will be defeated.
So what is your advice, basically? What do you think she should do?
Well, I'm just being honest and real.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that.
Yes, she might not like it, but then what I want to advise is that since this thing has been occurring and she has let the man know that this is the way she feels about the way he is treating her, and the man is not trying to do something about it, then she will part of the relationship. You understand?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Victor.
Every relationship doesn't lead to marriage.
Thank you so much. Thank you for calling.
Thank you.
Okay, so Victor is saying that in this context now, the purpose of love is not being fulfilled. He says there's a clear difference in their social standings, and because of that clear difference, it's affecting their interactions. It's affecting the way he perceives Kachi in this relationship. Now, he says if the man is not willing to close that gap, then that gap is going to still stay there and this will continue. But if he's willing to close the gap, then to a large extent, it's possible that this can be fixed. So I had to interject there and say that there's no indication here that he's not willing to close that gap. So let's not generalize or let's not completely just, say that that's the case, when in reality, we do not know that as a fact. So he's basically saying if that social standing is not bridged with love to the point where people would look at them and not even be able to tell that this is happening because their interactions are so loving and so intimate and so accommodating, then what's the point, according to him? He says, what's the point? So he says it's better for her to not let her mental health be continually hit or continually affected by this. And it's better to walk away at this point while she still can. So thank you very much again, Victor from Ikorodu. So this subject of mental health cannot be taken away from the construct of this conversation. it cannot be taken away from the construct of this conversation at all. Because according to Kachi, and I'll read it clearly what she said, he cares for me and provides for me, but just this issue which bothers me. He cares for me and provides for me, but just this issue which bothers me. Now, minus caring and being a good provider, there are lots of other things that a relationship, is about. But she specifically does say that he cares and he provides for her. So it's this one thing, the fact that he insults her reasoning on matters, the fact that he looks down on her for not being as educated as he is, that's the thing that she doesn't like the most about their relationship. Now, can it be fixed? Can it be fixed? This is why I mentioned the fact that even if Kachi decides to further her education today, because of his profession, which is medicine, he's a doctor, because of his profession, because of the nature of what he does, he will continually have to upgrade his own level of education every single time. Now, he will need to go back to school, he will need to take courses, he will need to be more and more and more experienced with everything new that pertains to his profession. So he will literally stay more educated than Kachi would be at any point in time. Now, except if somewhere in that union or somewhere in the course of that relationship, Kachi attains professorship. That's possibly literally the only point where they might be on the same level, because at the time it would take for Kachi to attain professorship, he may not necessarily be going to school anymore. He might just be, gaining experience with every year that passes. But how long will that take? And does Kachi really want to do that? Is that the best route? Does furthering her education make a potential solution to this? All right, please call back if you can. Does furthering her education make a potential solution to how the state of this relationship is at this moment? If she decides that, okay, I understand that you look down on me, or you bully me, or you tease me, or you don't value me because I'm not as educated as you, so I'm going to go to university. Will that change anything? Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening. How are you today?
Yeah, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Tell me your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Stephen from Akuti.
Tell me your name again.
I'm Stephen from Akuti.
I still didn't get that.
Yeah?
Tell me your name again, please.
Favor from Akuti.
Favor, thank you very much for calling. Favor, are you calling for the first time?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, Favor, what do you think Kachi should do? What is your advice to her?
Well, my advice is that, first of all, the guy is supposed to respect her because she know how to do. And she knows everything from secondary school, but she has a skill that she's doing. What if you try to do is to encourage her? Then I think the second thing she should do, she should try and further education. Even if it's go from polytechnic, she can just try for the academic get so that the girl will look down on her.
Okay.
So I feel she looking down on her. Maybe she should try and sort things out, discuss about it. But if the guys belittling her, I think she should just work out in the relationship. I don't think that's the man God that we're doing for her.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Favor. Thank you for calling.
Yeah.
Okay, so Favor says she doesn't need to necessarily walk out of the relationship just yet, that she might need to work on herself, further her education, and that something that is very important is the fact that the man doesn't need to belittle her. In fact, there's no need for it, because according to Favor, she has something doing. And that is not a lot. That's not something that too many people can brag about, particularly right after secondary school. So Favor says he should respect her regardless of the fact that she's not as educated as he is. She should respect her. And that is very, 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 very true. That is extremely true. You don't need to respect somebody because of their level of education, exposure, age, all of that. You can just respect them because they're people, they're human. You know, respect is a natural element in life and everyone should have it. You can respect them regardless of whether they went to school or not. So Favor is saying he should actually respect her because she has a skill, she has something she's working on. And then she also said, if she wants, she can further her education while still working as a tailor. So she can go to school, she can go to a polytechnic and, further her education and make that improvement for her own life. Now, my question here is, why does she need to further her education? Is it a need or is it a want? Is it based on, oh, you need to further education so that nobody will look down on you anymore? Not just he, but so that nobody will look down anymore on you and so that you will have this degree for yourself? Or is it, oh, I think you should, is it a want or a need, basically? Does she need to do this? Or is it something that she should just do? Is it a need? Does this really change anything? Or are we saying she should further her education for herself? Now, and that's another thing. Are we saying she should further her education for herself just because she needs to be more educated? And are we saying this would apply, you will learn more about life, you'll be more exposed? Are we using all these benefits of tertiary education as the background of this advice that we're giving her to further her education? Or are we saying she should further her education so that she can at least add one more notch to her belt when it comes to her rating or um her regard from this man, from her fiance? Is this for his benefit or is this for her benefit? Is it even important that she goes to tertiary institution? Does it really matter? Does it really matter? I mean, if all of us right out of secondary school knew exactly what we wanted to do, that will make us money and that will be consistent means of income and give us fulfillment in life, if we all knew what we wanted to do right out of secondary school, if we didn't need to go to the higher institution, if we didn't need to go to a tertiary institution for that thing that would give us joy and give us money, would we go? Or are we going because society says we have to? Are we going because Nigeria believes that if we don't go to school, if you're not a graduate, then you're not respected? Is that why we're going? Don't we get that option to determine whether or not we want to go? So if Kachi just wants to become great at fashion design, she wants to own her own label, she wants to have other tailors work under her, she wants to have, she wants to open stores around, she wants to be an employer of labor in the fashion design industry. If that's her goal, does she necessarily need to go to a tertiary institution for this? Or are we saying further your education so that the man can respect you more and he can look at you as somebody who at least has acquired a degree from a higher institution and has more sense, so to speak, for lack of a better word? And now would he start to value her more? Will he start to um, regard her opinions more because she's graduating from university? Will there ever be a point where she has attained enough education to not be harassed or bullied by this man? Will there ever be a point where she will attain enough education to not be looked down on by this man? By her fiance? Will there ever be a time when any level of education that she acquires will be enough for him not to look down on her? I mean, if she acquires tertiary education and she comes out with a degree, it's possible that this guy has a master's, possible that he has a PhD. And if he does, he's probably going to be like, you just came out with a degree, I raising shoulder. I'm just saying this. This may not necessarily be the case, But will the goalpost keep moving? Will it keep moving in this area of education? Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much for calling. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm Vincent calling from Magro.
Thank you for calling, Vincent. Are you calling for the first time?
No.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much, Vincent. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to advise her because going to school to higher institution is just like if she's helping herself too. In terms of her work, she may enlighten more. They may enlighten her more. The way she goes through, she may have connections. And secondly, for her, so that her husband will be bullying her concerning this. He is talking about education. He may have some way recognizing her that if so, if Avenue is not a professional, it's not this thing, she have worked to a level. She's a graduate, so her husband may not be looking down on her again like before again, and two, it will help her in terms of her fashion designer too. She may decide to open a big something for her to have employee. Maybe she will develop her business too.
Okay,
so
I understand what you're saying.
Then,
but let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question, Vincent.
Okay, ma.
Can't she open her own business, be more knowledgeable, learn more about tailoring and fashion design without going to higher institution? Can't she do that?
She can do that.
So why does she need to go to university?
It's just because of her husband, because of her fiancé bullying her.
Okay.
So as for me, if happen I have something doing, and I did not go to school, and I'm making money, no need of going to further my school anymore. But if I would decide to further my school, it's just because of my business to go up again, for people to know me. Oh, that is all.
Okay.
And I need to learn about it. And if she cannot go to school, let her find a home teacher that can teach her some English, if it is so that her husband wants. So that it should be like that. That's my dream.
Okay. Thank you very much, Vincent. Thank you for calling.
Welcome.
So, see, I had to ask that question. And he basically said the most important reason for which you should go to a higher institution is because of her fiance. So that he will stop bullying her, harassing her. He will stop teasing her that way. He'll stop looking down on her. So it still begs the question, though, like, why does she have to go? Now, I'm not saying that she doesn't want to go. I don't even know if she wants to go. I don't know that. From her story, it doesn't say. All she says is he looks down on me because of my level of education. He insults my reasoning on matters and it gets to me. I don't like kids. What do I do? That's what she basically is saying. She doesn't say if she wants to go to school. Now, if she wants to go to higher institution, then all well and good. But how about if she doesn't want to go, all well and good? Does she have to go because her fiance looks down on her? Let's bear in mind that she's 24, he's 32. So no matter how much education she acquires, he will still be older than she is. He will still be more accomplished than she is. And she will basically never really be able to measure up. That's why I asked that question earlier. How far does she have to go when it comes to education for him to feel that she's educated enough? How far does she have to go for him to feel that she's educated enough? For him to stop insulting her reasoning on matters? So is it when she graduates from university and then they're talking, and then middle of the conversation, and then she gives him a piece of advice, and he's like, "Oh, okay. See, now you have sense now," or that. See how sensible that sounded, or I think that this school that you're going is benefiting you. Is it until she graduates from university that he will start to respect her point of view? He will start to, regard her as a partner in the relationship. Is it until she graduates university? What if she graduates university and that doesn't change because he's been doing it for years and that's just his nature? What if that's the kind of person he is and he's just using the excuse of her level of education to do this to her? If she gets educated, would there be any other point in her life that would be the focal point of being looked down on? That would be the focal point of that disdain? Would there be any other point in her life? For instance, if he has traveled out of the country before for school, for anything basically, and she acquires a degree from a school in Nigeria, will the issue now be that, oh, you have a degree, but you have it from Nigeria? Would it be now an exposure issue that, oh, at least you've not even traveled abroad, so you don't know how it works abroad? Whenever they talk, will he now respect her because she has a degree? I'm hoping that my point is being understood as I'm talking, because to a large extent, this does not necessarily sound like an education matter. But I don't want to conclude on anything. I love the fact that we're bringing all these points of view. It's extremely important. Now, another thing that Vincent said that stood out for me was, even if she doesn't want to go to school, she can hire, or somebody can be hired for her to teach her basic things, English, mathematics, business. I don't know if they teach business, but something along the lines of giving her more education, basically. Now, what stood out, what popped up or jumped up at me was, can she communicate properly, regardless of the fact that that she hasn't acquired tertiary institution education? Can she communicate regardless of the fact that, or despite the fact that she doesn't have a degree from a higher institution? Some people, in fact, a good amount of people to a large extent, after secondary school, they're great communicators. English is taught in nursery, primary, and secondary school. So English is taught, integrated science is taught, government is taught, history is taught, sciences are taught. They're all the things that you teach in school. And when you come out of secondary school, if you went to a good secondary school, you graduate from secondary school, to a large extent, your mind is occupied, your mind is buzzing, your mind is alive. Does the fact that she's a recent graduate from secondary school affect her communication with this man? Because if it affects her communication with her fiance, then it's not completely difficult to understand when he looks down on her. Because if she can't speak good English, she can't communicate her thoughts properly, then even if he doesn't want to, he will passively aggressively still look down on her. It'll happen subtly. It won't be something that he would be doing like boldly and in her face and making her feel small. But it would be a subtle, it would be a subtle way of, oh, what are you even doing? You don't even know what you're saying. Thereby still making her feel silly at the end of the day. So, can she communicate properly? And if she can, regardless of the fact that she hasn't acquired a higher institution degree, then shouldn't that be enough? Shouldn't that be just right for their relationship? I mean, in this context, for their relationship. So this is 27 minutes past the hour of 10 in Your Women Radio, WFM 91.7. This is Adults Conversations, and tonight we're profiling the story of Kachi. Kachi is 20, she's 24, and she's a tailor. Her fiance is 32. He's a doctor. He's well educated while Kachi just finished secondary school. Kachi said her fiance is always looking down on her because of her education. He always insults her reasoning on matters and it gets to her. He cares for her and he provides for her, but this is the one issue that bothers her. And she's asking, please advise me, what do I do? The number to call to advise Kachi is 07000 917 917. 07000 917 917. You can also send in a text or a WhatsApp message to 0703 175 6537. 0703 175 6537. And this message says, my advice to her is to quit the relationship. Because if she continues with this guy who doesn't value her, she may regret it later on. This one doesn't say, okay, this is Anne from Ikeja. Anne says, based on personal experience, I advise she discusses it with the guy, and if he persists, she should give him space and further her education. That's what I did without regret. I'm coming back to that. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much for calling. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Okay, this is Solomon calling from Ujodi.
Solomon from Ujodi Badger.
Yeah.
Okay, are you calling for the first time?
Yeah, from Ujodi Badger.
Are you calling for the first time?
Yeah, the first time, of course.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Please go ahead. What do you think that you should do?
This is my own contribution. Actually, I've been listening to you ever since you've been talking. And because I haven't came inside to pay attention very well, and I thought, okay, this is my own contribution to that. It's something that has happened to me as well, but I overlooked. Fine, if the guy is well educated and the lady is not being educated, he's just trying to push that girl out of her life, and at the same time she's trying to help her. Because I believe one thing, if the girl now finally decided on her own that she wants to pour herself into that institution and she came out from it, I believe she won't go back to that same guy again. Because she will be saying to herself that after all, when I gave you my heart, you were looking down, maybe because you have gone to school and I did not, but now that I've gone to my own, so I've gone to school. So what else? Let me just go to meet someone else that will respect me the way I want to be, and will also give that respect back to that same man. And again, it shouldn't be called of that. We should do something that at the end of the day, she herself will also regret. Going to school, it is not going to school is not the end of the world. Not going to school is still not the end of the world. If we have more things to do with our life, many go to school to go and learn, but at the end they're coming out, they don't have that thinking factor. But the one that don't even go to school at all, the way he or she will behave mature. For those that even went to school, even in my office, the way they behave sometimes, I begin to wonder. The person that said that she went to school, when she went to school, the way she behaved, talking to people, Rudy, and you try to talk,
okay, so
like that.
Okay.
Hello?
Let me to be clear and for the sake of time, you're basically saying that if she wants to go to school, she can go.
Yeah.
If she doesn't want to go, she doesn't need to go. Is that what you're saying? That she should just decide what she wants to do?
Yes.
Okay. So in the context of this relationship now, are you saying that that whether or not she decides to go or not, will that influence her staying in this relationship or not?
It all depends on her.
Okay, at the end of the day, whether or not she decides to go, right?
It depends on
All
her.
right. Thank you, Solomon. Thank you for calling.
Yeah.
All right. So in a nutshell, Solomon is basically saying her decision, her wants and her needs are the things that matter at this point. Her desires, her goals are the things that matter. So he's saying, if you want to go, go ahead. If you don't want to go, go ahead. It will benefit you for your business. It would expose you to a lot more opportunity, a lot more people, a lot more connections if you go. But if you don't go, you can still be exposed to people, connections, and experience. So he's saying at the end of the day, it's up to her to decide what she wants, and how that decision would affect this relationship is also up to her. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Could you turn down the volume of your radio for me, please?
I just did. Can you hear me now?
Yes, a lot better. Thank you so much. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Olumide.
Olumide, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Idris Shaga.
Idris Shaga. Are you a first-time caller?
I'm not a first-time caller. I think I called you last week.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for calling back. How are you doing today?
Okay, so I'm just going to go straight to it.
Fantastic.
If I heard you correctly, you said Kachi is a 23-year-old and her boyfriend is 32, a medical doctor, right?
Yes, she's 24. Her boyfriend is a medical doctor. He's 32.
Okay, I didn't get the point where you said maybe how long they get for. I don't think you stated that.
No, she didn't say that either. She didn't say how long they've been dating for.
Alright, so just from all I've heard, I personally would ask Kachi to just probably move on. Alright? Yes, that's what I'm just gonna say. Alright, so if Kachi is 24 and just leaving secondary school, probably she had challenges getting into school on time, or probably she wasn't just catching up. Do you feel me?
Or probably something to do with her upbringing.
Obviously. Alright. So obviously she had issues. That's why she's leaving secondary school at this very old age.
Yeah.
Now, if Kachi to go to any university, from what her boyfriend is saying, she would spend at least maybe another 4 years, 5 years, depending on whatever course she wants to study, right?
True.
What would this boyfriend be doing all the while she was studying?
He's a doctor.
Would he expect her to just gain admission into school and then her vocabulary or stuff would just change instantly? This guy already clearly has issues with his face. Do you feel me?
Absolutely.
Probably he was just attracted to her physicality. Do you understand? So now, probably he already got what he wanted from her, and he's just ready for her to just get out of his life. That's why he's bringing all these fun excuses that she doesn't make any sense and whatever. The other thing I was going to say is, if this guy genuinely likes this babe, he shouldn't speak with her in that manner. He should talk to her calmly and make her see reasons why she should go to school and, gather more educational experiences and stuff like that. Do you understand? This guy doesn't really care about her. That's why he's talking to her in this manner. Do you feel me? This particular doctor guy just makes me feel like he's going to be controlling her or he's just going to change her. What if Kachi goes to the university and then her vocabulary or whatever her thinking mindset doesn't even improve? What's going to happen? Things are going to change.
All right. So
Personally, just help me tell Kachi to please move on with her life.
All right. Thank you so much, Olumide. Thank you for calling.
You're welcome.
I don't know where to begin with the summary of Olumide's conversation, but she's basically saying Kachi is 24, her fiance is 32, and even if she still goes to school, it's still going to take an amount of years, to acquire this education. Will anything change in the course of acquiring this education? Maybe, maybe not. Nothing is certain. And if nothing changes, does that mean the relationship ends? And she's also saying, if he really loves her, you can convince and persuade someone to do something without belittling them and making them feel less of a person. So she's basically saying, walk out of the relationship. This is not for you. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. How are you doing tonight?
I'm fine.
All right. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Enya.
Okay.
I'm
Turn
calling from
down
Oba.
the volume of your radio, please.
I'm not with any radio.
Okay, but maybe you should move a little bit from where you are because I can hear feedback.
Okay, can you hear me now?
It's a lot better now. Thank you so much. Eyinaya is your name, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, please go ahead. What's your advice for Kachi?
This matter, what I see there, that there is no love in that relationship.
Mm.
If there is love in that relationship, the man wouldn't have think about or under the woman, the lady. Or if he wants to come up to his own level of education, then he will fix the lady into school. So that lady should mind her work and continue, because God bless everyone. It's not by education. When God determined to bless her, it's not by her education.
Mm. Okay.
So let she just focus on her work. Or if she wants to go to school again based on her own work, then she can go to school to upgrade her level in that work she's doing.
Mm. Thank you so much, Einaya. Thank you for calling. So he also says there's no love in this relationship. And if there was, he wouldn't talk to her this way or insult her reasoning on matters. He also says if she desires to go to school, it will be good for her own business, for her own education, for her own benefit, and not necessarily for her fiance. Okay, so before I go back to the phone lines, there are a number of messages I must read, and I'm going to take some messages from everywhere, including Facebook, and it's going to take some time. So please be patient with me. All right, so this one is coming from Ima from Ikorodu. Ima says, I'm hoping this is Ima and not Emma, but hopefully I get it right. This is, I think she should acquire more knowledge on her skill, watch more videos relating to her passion, and also know the kind of people that she moves with. All right, thank you. This one is coming from Samuel Ohiri from Odogonyo Ikorodu. Oh, okay. He says, I've just joined the show. Please give me a clue of what you guys are talking about. All right, just please keep listening. You will get the hang of what we're saying. I'll go over it later. All right, so this one is coming from Samuel from Ikorodu. He's saying, good evening. The care is not complete. If he still looks down on her because of her education, she is just considering the money aspect of the guy. Meanwhile, money cannot buy happiness. I follow suit. A broken relationship is better than a broken marriage. All right. Thank you. Now I go on to Facebook and I'll take all the messages off of Facebook and then we go back to the phone lines. This one is coming from Benjaz. And he says, as at this halftime now, he's winning you with 2-0. Make sure you equalize him in the second half, and if possible, beat him at least with 2-5. You further your education, finish it, go for master's degree, then you will win the match. See, the trick with this is, even if she goes for a master's degree, as at the time she's acquiring a master's degree, he has possibly gone for tons of trainings and tons of courses in medicine that has furthered his education as well. So he will still stay more educated than she is at the end of the day. Will that change how he perceives her? Ooh, okay, Sumtum, go back to the messages. All right. This one is coming from Solomon Ikechuku Onwuneme, who says, my dear sister, communication matters a lot in relationship. Try to communicate with him and let him know you don't like what he's doing. It might be his method to brush you up. But if communication with him fails, please, broken relationships are better than broken marriages. So rethink, please. Akiola Ayodeji Emmanuel is saying, good day, the gap is too much. If you will eventually settle down with him, you will not enjoy the marriage. Sit him down and tell him to stop the bullying. You can also tell him that you want to further your education and see his reaction. We have a lot of online school, part-time, and you will get your BSc before you clock 30. I know a married woman that finished her BSc in nursing with the support of her husband at the age of 30. If she can, you can. And that's coming from Akinola Ayodeji Emmanuel. Emmanuel Ajayi is saying, have a sense of self-worth. It's not a matter of pride. Don't be desperate. He doesn't deserve you, and you deserve to be happy. Remember, together forever is far. Those are some gems right there. Olawale Peter Ayane is saying, it's a dicey situation. I will advise you to quit the relationship to avoid more complicated issues. Oluwaseun Emmanuel is saying, date someone you're free and proud to have. This guy doesn't love you. End the relationship and move on with your life, please. Forget all the things he gives you. Those things don't matter. Your mental health comes first. Nicholas Isaac Soporici says, enroll yourself into a school, tertiary institution, study and read more to bridge the educational gap. I am Eddie Essien says, if he truly desires you, he's supposed to ask you to go back to school in order to meet his taste. As it stands, he won't stop insulting you. Emmanuel Olagundoye says, endurance, it also calls for tolerance too, so that the relationship can last for a longer time. Remember, no relationship is 100% perfect. James Jabless TT says, sorry, look somewhere else. That's my advice to you. All right. And those are the messages of our Facebook. Please keep them coming and let us continue the conversation. This one is coming in from Oladunjoye Meokon, and he's saying, our sister has to accept the challenge that this situation brings her way. She should discuss the prospect of going back to school. No matter the case, the man will still be more exposed, but she'll be able to discuss intelligently and command the respect of all, not only her husband. Going back to school will also help her in her business. Okay, very true. Going back to school will help her in her business. But the context of being respected by all is also a reflection of how her husband treats her. He's still her fiance right now, so let's just call him her fiance. But eventually, if she does get married, or when she does get married, regardless of whether she goes to a higher institution or not, how other people would treat her is how her husband treats her. If he looks down on her, he treats her with disdain. Because she is not a graduate, they are going to treat her the exact same way. But if he carries her like an egg and he treats her with respect, he discusses with her intelligently, he speaks highly of her to other people, nobody would even remember that she's not a graduate, that she didn't go to tertiary institutions, and nobody would care at the end of the day. So, going back to the phone lines, it's 15 minutes to the hour of 11, and this is still your Women Radio WFM 91.7. So to Samuel Ohiri, who says he doesn't have a clue of what we're discussing, let me give you the breakdown. Kachi is 24, she's a tailor. Her fiance is 32, he's a medical doctor. He is well educated, apparently, and she just graduated from secondary school. Now, the challenge here today with the story is that Kachi is saying her fiance is always looking down on her because of her education. He's always insulting her reasoning on matters, and it really gets to her. So, according to her, he cares for her and he provides for her. But the issue here is that he always looks down on her and he insults her, and that bothers her. So she's asking, what is your advice for me and what do I do? Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much for calling. What's your name and where are you calling from?
This is Emmanuel from Akiode.
Emmanuel from Akiode. Thank you for calling. Are you calling for the first time?
No.
Yeah.
Emmanuel from Akiode, Jodibega.
Okay. You sound very familiar. So I just wanted to clarify whether you're my person or you're not my person.
I call all the time.
I'm saying that you're my person. I know. Yeah. So thank you very much again, Emmanuel. I hope you had a good
So what I'm trying to say is just that that doctor is just using her. The gospel truth is just that she just has to move on because the guy has no regard for her. There are doctors, there are some male doctors that are womanizer. They take advantage of young girls.
Emmanuel, he's engaged to her though. He's engaged to be married to her. Does that matter? Okay, so Emmanuel is saying that he might be taking advantage of her, that he doesn't love her and he's possibly using her. And I just needed to point out the fact that they're engaged though. I mean, does that count? Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much for calling. Tell me your name or where you're calling from, please.
Okay, my name is Wally. I'm calling from Agboro.
Wale from Agboro. Thank you for calling.
Okay. In my own opinion, I would say you, as a human being, you cannot, because of any individual, decide to upgrade yourself or build yourself in terms of education or any other way. The number one thing that was supposed to be done by the lady, even before now, she was supposed to enroll the school, so as to build herself for maybe future purpose, how to know herself what, to go in all aspects of her life, and also that will help her in discovering the opportunities that are hidden, all the opportunities that you have come across, along the line, and also education doesn't own us, that we all know. So maybe the guy is just not happy about the way she compose herself or compose herself in public, or maybe the way she speaks, or maybe some couple of things that people will not be happy about when they introduce their partner to other people, and she cannot really represent.
Okay, let me interject here, Wale. I said, let me interject for 1 second. I do not know if you know, but there are quite a staggering number of people who are actually graduates and cannot represent themselves properly, let alone their partners. They don't speak proper English. And English, for me, is not even the real issue here, because English is not our mother tongue. Anybody can speak whatever they want to speak. But you need to be able to communicate properly. So a lot of graduates, despite the fact that they went to school, cannot successfully do this. So does it really matter? Is the educational factor here extremely important for the sake of this relationship, or is it important for her as a person?
Okay, I would say that if the guy really loves her, there's always a way to go about it. He can always, teach her things she doesn't know. Possibly build her in his own, direction. Because I can imagine, I'm trying to look at the point of view of the guy himself, or the man, maybe he has this picture of the kind of woman he wants, and he's the only one that can build, how to suit his desire. So there has to be there has to be love, involved.
Absolutely.
Any correction that will come shouldn't be aggressive. Else it would kill our self-esteem also, and that's not even a good thing, to add to the situation.
All right. Thank you very much, Wale. Thank you for calling. The number to call is 07000 917 917. 07000 917 917. We're rounding up very soon, but I can still take 2 more calls before I go. Wale from Magbore is basically saying there has to be love in that relationship for it to succeed, whether or not she desires to get educated or not. But he's saying it's important for her to get educated so that she can get more exposure, more connection, more, just more knowledge as regards what she can do with herself, her business, and increase her self-worth as a person. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, I'm not going to call it from the
Can you turn down the volume of your radio for me, please?
Okay.
All right, tell me your name again.
Yeah, the name is Morgan from Budogunya.
Hello, Morgan. Really quickly, what's your comment? What do you think Kachi should do?
Hello?
I can hear you, Morgan. I can hear you. What do you think Kachi should do? What's your advice?
Yeah, my advice for her is that she should keep the relationship.
Okay.
Because this is my reason. There is no love in the relationship. So somebody who loves his partner will not talk like this. So our advice now to quit it. Because the guy is not appreciative, and I will say caring is not just everything. At least it needs to tolerate your partner as well. So if you continue with the relationship, I believe time to come, it will not last.
Okay. Thank you very much, Morgan. I appreciate you calling. Are you a first-time caller?
No, this is the second time I'm calling.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for calling again. Enjoy the rest of your night. Okay, so Morgan is saying that there's no love in this relationship. That if there were, he would still know how to talk to her without making her feel small, without making her feel bad. And he will be able to encourage her to further her education if she wants to. This is a particular school of thought that has been recurrent in the course of this conversation today. And I appreciate you for calling, Morgan. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening. This is Vincent speaking.
Your name again, please.
This is Vincent speaking.
Vincent from
Omuru.
All right, please go ahead very quickly.
Yeah, for me, I feel for the guy knows her. Then he should invest in her, in my education. Now, I don't feel if this girl at this stage, that's a red flag for her, that the guy might not really be cool with her when they get married eventually because of the gap. Of course, the guy at this level maybe wanted a very maybe intelligent conversation and wanted it that really fast and mentally exposed. The education is not the base. We have guys who are not really that exposed, but at that point, like the guy have his kind of really wrong. So what do you need to do if I were the guy? Invest in the lady. I have a friend who got married to his woman. The lady only have an SSC, and he basically the woman, which are the woman now today. They have one baby, one child, but the lady is in university now. He pays for the school fees, and make sure the lady gets to that point. So if the guy truly love her, let him invest in the woman and help her upgrade to his level. Otherwise, the gap is so wide. The first thing that's a medical doctor, the gap is so wide. So that's a red flag for the lady. But I feel there's no love in that man. I think that if the guy is bullying that lady because of the father, she's not well educated. And that's just my contribution.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so Vincent is saying he doesn't think that there's love in that relationship, particularly because if he's demeaning her and insulting her reasoning in matters, in case you're wondering why I keep saying insulting her reasoning in matters, that's because that's literally what Kachi said in her story. And I'm saying it because I need us to understand that when we say bullying, when we say harassing, when we say teasing, when we say mocking, all these are just synonyms for exactly what Kachi said, which is insulting her reasoning in matters. So back to Vincent, he's saying that if there was love in this relationship, there are ways that you can talk to her and convince her and persuade her to do certain things. But he said the most important thing here is that the fiance at this point, as a medical doctor at the level he's in, possibly just wants intelligent conversations, somebody who's on the same mental wavelength with him. And he possibly is not getting that from Kachi. So Vincent is saying the best thing would be for him to invest in her. What investment means now is very relative. It could mean taking her through school, paying for her school fees. It could mean just, hiring somebody or a set of people to educate her from home. It could mean, online courses. It could mean exposure to networks, to people who can boost her business. It could mean anything, really. But to a large extent, intelligent conversations, according to Vincent, is something that might be very important to this doctor, and he needs her to get to that point. But he's also saying that if he's insulting her reasoning and bullying her and making her feel small because of her level of education, then there's no love. And if there's no love, Vincent is saying, I don't see the point. Okay. At this point, I'm going to just round off. We're far pressed for time at this point, and we've done a lot at this point. Thank you very much to everyone who has called so far, to everyone who has contributed. I'm not going to lie, today's conversation was very interesting. And Adult Conversations is that kind of program where you learn something new every single day. So if you haven't learned anything new today, well, tune in again next week, Monday to Thursday on Your Women Radio, WFM 91.7 by 9 to 11 p.m. Thank you so much to everyone who has called so far. Different schools of thoughts today, but one thing is sure, Kachi will eventually be able to make an informed decision out of all the advice that has been given. So thank you again, and I appreciate you on Kachi's behalf. I hope you'll join me next week next week, Monday to Thursday on Your Women Radio 91.7 by 9 to 11 p.m. Thank you very much to my producer, Taiwo Adeleye, to my engineer on duty, Cephas Amasa. My name is Sumto Titilayo Ajama. Good evening or good night and sleep tight.
I ran into you yesterday. I tried to forget you, but I failed. I don't even know what to say, but here I am. Look how far I came. You look so pretty, so insane. Your smile still lighting up the day. Your voice still ringing in my brain. I hope your memory will vanish. Easy to see, especially in someone really low.